I'm going to call to order the Effingham Board of Commissioners meeting. It is March the 2nd, 2020 at 5 o'clock. Let's get everyone to please rise for invocation. Our next thing to pledge allegiance to the flag. Heavenly Father, we are so thankful and so blessed to be here tonight among these board members and the staff that serve so well together. Such unity, speaking yesterday, is the unity we share and the joy and the peace we share with our elected officials and all that they do for our county. We are just so blessed. And we don't want to take that for granted. It really is easy to do. So as we come together to hear from our constituents and our staff and make those decisions, we pray they'll be pleasing to you. They'll build a better county, a better economy, a better fellowship, a better place for us to live and to raise our children. So guide us in these decisions. Let us use our wisdom and our heads and our hearts and not our politics. And we pray that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have our agenda before us, and I noticed there was a couple of items added to the non-reservations, if I'm not in the press.
Yes, sir. Please, sir.
Would you give us the items we're going to add to our agenda? please?
Yes, sir. We'll start with, under new business number 6. You actually have the information in most part. It's a reappointment for Mr. Lowell Morgan to the Tax Assessor Board. We'd also like to include a reappointment for Janice Bevel as well under new business number 6. Adding as new items under new business number 8 is a consideration to approve a final plat for Oliver subdivision. It's on Old Dixie Highway. This information was submitted through for the agenda. It was an oversight that it was missed, so it should have been there. Item number 9 is consideration to approve a lease agreement between Effingham County and the Department of Natural Resources related to the voting accesses. And number 10 is consideration to approve to accept a proposal for general obligation transportation sales tax bonds from Key Government Finance. This item needed to be added because the deadline is fastly approaching, and I believe it's March the 8th.
Very good.
So number 8, why are we adding that again?
Number 8, because it was missed when it was submitted for the agenda. It was
Not a
an
full discussion at the meeting, but just, Mr. Roach, the rate came in unbelievably low.
No, I'm talking about item number 8.
He's talking about
I mean,
that.
I haven't even had a chance to look over this.
It's fairly straightforward.
Okay.
We can do with it whatever you wish. It is in your district, Commissioner DeLoach.
Okay, all right.
That was an item from the last meeting, maybe, or what was that?
No, it was an item for this meeting. When it was submitted for the agenda approval, it was missed.
Okay.
No, I'm done with
That was
item
on my
bonds.
part.
All right.
I'm sorry. I thought you were number 2. So you're good with number 8 as well?
Yeah, I'm fine.
The material, it is there. Any items that was added tonight, you have a copy of everything there.
Okay. I'm not going to try to repeat the items for the record, so you will reflect those in the minutes. Does everyone understand the additions? Are there any additions to the agenda? Do I have a motion to accept the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda with the additions.
Second. Motion by Mr. Walker to approve the agenda with the additions. Second by Mr. Burdette. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. We have our agenda. Next item is number 5, consideration to approve the February 16, 2021 Commissioner meeting minutes. I was not here at that meeting. Are there any corrections or additions to it?
I wasn't there, so I don't get it.
Okay.
Just as a note, on item number 8 under planning board, it was not noted as a second. That was caught earlier today as well, so that change has been, or that has been added. It's not a change.
You got some addition noted, you made the second.
Yes.
Very good. We got one correction, not addition to the minutes, or any other corrections or additions? Now, those who were here would not be me, myself, or Mr. Floyd. All the others, do you approve those minutes, say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, they approve, and note that I don't vote, but that Commissioner Floyd abstained as he was not present.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, we need a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And again, let it be noted, Mr. Floyd did not approve, abstain.
Thank you.
Thank you for that correction. Public comments. Thank the public for being here tonight. It's always good to have you here participating in our meetings. Documents for this meeting are located at the clerk's office and on the board of the commissioner's website. If you had a chance to look at that, prepare for this meeting tonight, and prepare to make comments at the appropriate time. If you keep those comments at 2 or 3 minutes, that would be great. It keeps our meeting moving, gives everyone a chance to comment and wants to comment on the item. We got an appearance tonight, and then I see some elected officials I may want to recognize in just a moment if you'll hang in there with us. And I'll honor Mr. Harold Morgan, who's here, first will speak at 5:05, and it's 5:07. So, Mr. Morgan, if you want to come share with us what's on your mind tonight.
Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. My name is Harold Morgan. I live at 1628 Little McCall Road in Guyton, Georgia. My concern tonight is the condition of Little McCall Road from Courthouse to 119, mainly from Abbey Lane to 119. There's so many potholes in that road that it's unreal. Every time it rains, we have 13 buses that comes by my house a day. And when those buses come by there, and they beat that little bit of tar and rock that they put out when it's raining most of the time, and it will not stick on wet dirt. I don't know who is in charge of designating what roads get paved. When Ralph Lawn Road was paved this year all the way from McCall Road to Highway 21, and it didn't have a pothole in it nowhere. One of my other concerns is I know these dirt pits have dump trucks that with a driver that's over a class 5, and they go down the county maintained roads, and I understand that they're going to dig that dirt, but they're supposed to go to the nearest state highway. And we have officers that will follow them trucks down the county maintained road and not stop them or say anything to them. I don't know what it is, but whether they don't want to make somebody mad or what, but that road needs to be fixed terribly.
We appreciate you. And I can support Mr. Morgan. He's my neighbor. I live on the same road. And it is rough potholes. And then refilled. It's very, even when the potholes are filled, it's very, very rough.
Some of the holes, when they get beat out so before they come out there with that little dirt dog truck, is anywhere from 6 to 8 inches deep before they come out there and put the rock and a little bit of tar in there.
And what's worse, Mr. Morgan, is my wife complained to me the other day, and Mama ain't happy, and nobody happy. So when your wife starts complaining about the road, you know you need to address it. But we are addressing it. If a county manager wants to respond a little bit to some of the things we have planned, we have noticed that there is some maintenance coming.
Sure, and you do bring up a good point on the with regards to the trucks, and so we did pass the ordinance about the quickest and most direct route to a state route, which would require them for the most part to get to 21 or down to 17, depending on which direction they're going. You know, that certainly is an issue I can bring up to the sheriff. And you know, a lot of the times I know there were some cases out there because I had gotten some complaints from the truckers who had gotten pulled over on Little McCalls, and there were some sizable citations issued on them as well. But on the road, we do have an update, and I'm trying to find it.
The LD 2021 has a portion of what we call on there. It is not the whole road, but there's not enough as far as the funding for the entire road. So the next
Chris,
Can you-
not
can you-
everybody, could you come to the microphone, we want to get recorded what you're saying.
half of Little McCall is on the 2021 LMIG for GDOT funds and the county match. It does not get the entire road because there was not enough funding to get that, but that's on the next 2022 cycle for recommendation.
We'll be able to start on the, I guess, the 119 end, as Mr. Morgan was saying.
The other end is actually the courthouse to Abbey Lane is on the first part, and then the second part was the other section. And that was based on the traffic.
Can you reverse it?
Is it too late, Kristen, to swap that in?
Y'all would just have to vote on that. As far as the DOT, that would be fine as long as the funding is still allocated for the same, but it has not gone out to bid yet. So that can be done. It would just have to
I would
happen.
recommend on the board, but accept it, because you got the chairman that lives there, and Harold lives there. There are probably at least 70% more pothole refills from Abbey Lane to 119, and only 30% related to the courthouse.
I noticed that 2 weeks ago.
Do you notice that too? So if we're gonna do half and half over the next 2 years, if we could do 119 to Abbey Lane,
Yeah.
I recommend if y'all work on that change and.
Yeah, I'll put that on the agenda for the upcoming meeting to change the LMIG.
And it's, like I said, it's not gone out to bid yet because it would be in the next budget cycle. So nothing has been published at this time.
And we'll just keep it as the same mileage so that the price keeps the same.
Yeah, if you don't make it all the way to Abbey Lane, that's fine, just come as far as you can. You'll get a lot more bang out of fixing that road and making a lot more happen. Thank you.
I know my commissioner will be glad of it.
It's a good thing you came, so it makes a difference.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Harold.
He won't call me anymore when he fixes the road. The only time he called me when he wanted to fix the road.
Sounds good, I appreciate that. I see Russ Dean, the mayor of Guyton, is here, and I hate to let a public official take time out of his schedule. Not to speak, is there anything that came to share, you'd like to show us?
I just like to not have to sit in your chair for a few minutes and run the meeting. It's nice to be on this side. So I've got a whole lot of grievances. No. I've not had the opportunity to address this board yet, and in my first year as mayor, I've been blessed by all of my interactions with the county. We've dealt with the pandemic, and we've had numerous opportunities to avail ourselves of things that y'all offer, such as the Prison Works program. Numerous things have been repaired in the city at a fraction of the cost. I have been blessed by my interactions with the sheriff. Wesley and Tim have taken me under their wings and been a guiding force in terms of my first year as mayor, and I thank you all for that opportunity. I wanted to bring something to your attention tonight as well. We are requesting the Board of Electors to run our election this coming November. We've been in discussions with them off and on, and while I know they are a separate board, at the same time I wanted to display we would very much like you to encourage this in ways that you can. We feel that we have an opportunity to save citizens money, consolidate this into an already existing office and service. I know I've spoken with John Clem at the City of Rincon. They're dealing with aging voting machines and are looking at a potential huge expense. So this is something that interests him as well, not speaking for the City of Rincon, but speaking for the city managers. We've had a few conversations. We, of course, would be very open to paying for our portion of the election, but I've seen the difference in a municipal run election, and I've seen what the county, Miss Olivia and that team can do. And I know it gave a lot of relief to our citizens whenever we had that runoff. We just wanted to bring this to your attention and once again say thank you for all the different things that the county has done for us in this past year. I do not sense the relationship I was warned of in the past. It seems like we are very much working together, all the cities and the City of Guyton and the county, especially with the SDS we just went through and a few other things that we've had on other burners. But thank you all, and thank you for your time.
You know, it really is good for us to see the counties and cities. You don't see them in the paper much anymore, do you? to speak about it. Really good. Got this information. Very good things about you. Appreciate you being in guidance. I might just make a comment about this request about the election board. To me, that's an efficient, responsible run government, if we can consolidate these elections. Russ had talked to me about that. John has reached out to me about that in Lincoln as well. They have old machines, they like that, they have better and more efficient. And there's no need to have 3 or 4 election clerks in the county and different machines and so forth. And so I just told them to be aware that it's a higher service that you need to pay the additional cost, but not the cost of our current operations. Our machines are be free, it should be, I think. And our staff, as long as they're doing their hours, will be okay. We try to get our election board to give us what the additional cost would be. And that will save our constituents. We represent the cities as much as the counties. It'll save our cities and our constituents in those cities thousands of dollars not to have to do individual elections. So I think there's a meeting coming up for the election board.
The election board will meet Monday morning at
Are
9:30.
you going to that meeting too?
I will be at that meeting.
That's okay. I can't be there. I'd like to be there. Tim, I might ask if you could be there to represent the county and encourage the board to help us be efficient, responsive as well. Not as a board member to go to sit there and listen to that. But I hope the election board will respond positively and we can do a little better for our constituents on that and help you guys out.
This is also the year of the SPLOST referendum, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So there will be that countywide. I think it'd be an excellent opportunity for citizens not to have to wait in line at the city and then re-wait in line to, I
And
mean,
then go to another place.
I think if we want to encourage voting on that referendum, which I believe is a positive thing to get citizen support for that, because it just kind of adds more validity to it, that consolidating these elections would be an excellent way to encourage that.
Sounds excellent to me. Like I said, I told the other cities there will be some additional costs. Our board will calculate that and add that charge to the cities, but it should be a fraction of what they pay now doing their own. So appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much. Y'all have a good night.
All right, we're moving to our consent agenda. There are 4 items on our consent agenda. I'll read them out to you, and I'll take a motion to approve. Item number 1 is a grant. Consideration to approve to accept a grant from ACCG Civic Affairs Foundation, Georgia County Internship Program, GCIP. Item number 2 is an agreement. Consideration to approve to allow a mutual aid agreement with the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals to continue. Item 3 is a grant. Consideration to approve to submit an application for staffing for adequate fire and emergency response. It's a SAFER grant. Item 4 is a consent agreement, is another agreement. Consideration to approve the memorandum of understanding between Effingham County Board of Education and Effingham County Board of Commissioners for ambulance services at various Board of Education events. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve is read.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lopez, second by Mr. Deloach to approve the consent agenda as read. All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Hearing none, carries unanimously. We have 3 items of old business. The first item is a public hearing. The planning board recommends approving an application by Toss Allen, agent for Kyle L. Ball.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I didn't know this one was coming up so quick. I have to step back, this is adjoining the personal property.
Okay, if the record would note that Mr. Kiefer is stepping down during the discussion of the public hearing. So again, the planning board recommends approving an application by Toss Allen, agent for Kyle J. Ball, to rezone 10 acres located at 768 Effingham Road from R1 to R6 for future development of Overthorpe land, map number 446, parcel number 13 in the 5th district. We'll start with Teresa.
This is a request to rezone to R6, and the main criteria for eligibility there is access to municipal or county water and sewer. In this case, City of Springfield has supplied a letter indicating that they will provide water and sewer, so that was met, and as a result, staff have recommended approval. At the planning board, though, there was a good deal of discussion about people on adjacent properties and their concern about the density, and the applicant did make an offer to include in the restrictive covenants of any future lots, and it needs that there be a fence requirement for each lot after the 50-foot vegetative buffer line. And so the planning board voted to approve this rezoning, to recommend approval of this rezoning with that added condition and make it a condition. So it's sort of for you to decide whether you wanted to keep that or not. Because at the last meeting where you weren't present, that came up, that similar kind of request for a condition came up with another rezoning, and it was discussed that perhaps it wasn't appropriate for us to be making conditions like that. So it's something you might want to discuss. In any case, the planning board did vote to recommend approval, but they did add a condition requiring fencing, that the developer required the property owners to add fencing to ensure that residents of this subdivision don't, children, dogs, whatever, don't trespass on adjacent properties and endanger themselves in ponds. That was the main concern.
So the staff is on the board's recommendation to approve. We'll open a public hearing and we'll hear from those who are speaking for this application.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Warren Ratchford. I'm here on behalf of the owners and the developers this afternoon. I do have Mr. Allen here and the actual developers with us, but what we're asking for this afternoon is that y'all approve the recommendations from the planning board. But Mr. Chairman, we're also asking that we go back and look at this privacy fence issue. I had been the one that brought that up to in the planning board meeting. Mr. Stallings was present. He's the neighboring landowner, a nice gentleman. His concern was trespass. I think Ms. Teresa pretty much stated the same thing. Where we were at is we couldn't do the 15-foot undisturbed buffer and put a privacy fence on the boundary line. So what we'd like to ask the commission to allow us to remove that and allow us to approach Mr. Stallings, see if some kind of resolution can be reached whereby fences, whereby my clients help him put a field fence up on his property line, separating them, which will not really cause any disturbance to the 15-foot undisturbed buffer. What our concern is, this was going to be done by a third party, not by us. So it's really not a monetary issue. But after discussing this with various people throughout the county, their big drawback to this was if we put it at the 15-foot and leave the undisturbed buffer behind it, it turns into kind of like a collection point, let's say. And all kinds of stuff gets stored back there, et cetera, kind of defeats the whole purpose of the undisturbed buffer. So what we're asking the commission to do is to approve the rezoning to the R6, but take away the privacy fence and allow us to work out something with Mr. Stallings that will put a boundary fence up, which would protect what he was seeking to stop the trespass, but at the same time, not create a 15-foot area for all kinds of storage.
Anyone else tonight speaking, let's say for this application? Zoning from R1 to R6, anyone speaking for it? Anyone else?
So you want to do away with the 15 feet, you still don't have a privacy fence, is that right?
Now, so we would still have the buffer, like the county regs require. That buffer will stay.
Okay.
But what we talked to the planning board about was between the improvement and the boundary of the 15-foot to erect a 6-foot privacy, to erect a privacy fence there. But if we do that, then unfortunately, what happens is a lot of stuff gets put behind that privacy fence, left there, and becomes a problem down the road. So we talked it around to a lot of people around the county, and pretty much what we've gotten back across the board is that if you leave that 15-foot strip there, eventually it just turns into, well, some of them were real straightforward, a trash heap. But basically, just whatever is left over that goes behind the privacy fence. And we didn't think that's what Mr. Stellings was after to start with. Certainly not what we're after. And we just feel like if we just meet with Mr. Stellings, we could work out something to put up a field fence type thing to mark his boundary to protect him from trespass. And he was under the understanding that, a fence did need to be on his boundary. But in light of doing it with the privacy fence, we just felt like this was better. If we went back there and put a privacy fence on the boundary line and left the 15 foot in front of it, the undisturbed buffer is just going to go away.
It's just running back to the property.
Right.
I've got some other, I guess we'll listen to if anyone has anything against it, not just a minute, but while we're talking about some questions, I was looking at this before I went on vacation last week and missed the meeting, but I was thinking there was something to do with the road. Does it comply with the R6? Like 1,000 foot? Is all that been corrected and clarified and approved?
We have a sketch plan, and that's actually the next item, and we have comments that we will be, what we've already shared.
Okay, so that would be under the sketch plan issue. We can still approve
Yes.
R6 if we want to, but we have to redo the sketch plan for that to comply with. Okay, I'm getting ahead of this, so that's one about that.
Is there anything else I can help y'all with tonight?
The only concern I would have, I think, is I think R6 is fine. It's just my personal opinion, except I wonder about the traffic dumping out on 275. Was there a traffic study associated with this to see if it needed to be a decel, XL lane or anything?
There is
There is? Okay.
a turn lane.
Is that?
There's a turn lane going into it, it's on the sketch
Okay.
plan.
Good. I just can't see it from here. I didn't notice it being on here, but it's there.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I can't see it up there either, but it's there, I'm pretty sure, because I'm looking at it.
Sounds good. All right.
Hey, DOT, I'm Jake Patrick, by the way. DOT has already approved or give us a verbal approval on
That'd be
the
one of my
right of way.
concerns. I see these subdivisions going up on these highways, and all these dozens of people turn out in the morning to go to work, and I see buses and kids and accidents. That's pretty good. Okay. Anyone tonight speaking against this rezoning from R1 to R6? Anyone objecting, like to speak against it? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and see if there's any questions or additional comments from the board.
I think it'd be better to put the fence on the back of the property, it's a sort of no man's land if you don't. Instead of putting the fence up and putting the property behind it, I mean, that'd be sort of a no man's land, really.
So it's just going to be one boundary fence and no individual fence around each individual house.
That's what I understand, no individual fence, just one boundary fence. So the boundary fence would be in the very back of the property? Just a
Yes,
short
that would
piece?
be placed on the boundary line.
On the boundary line.
Just that little short boundary at the very back?
No, sir, it's not a short boundary, it's about 1,200 feet, I
Oh, so
think.
you're talking about that along here?
Yes, sir.
Most likely when the houses get built, there will probably be privacy fences
It's
on them.
compacted on the helpful, so we just-
Sorry?
We can hear you better and.
Most likely, once the houses get built, there's going to be privacy fences up throughout everywhere, but for now, it'd be just a field fence.
I got you. So if I'm looking at this, we're talking about this bottom line, have a fence all over that side of it, which property?
It'd be to that side of the property.
This side.
Yes, sir, towards the creek.
That'd be the fence.
So there would be, the wire boundary line would come down between the two properties. Yes, sir, right there. Right there, that's it. All the way, no, sir, all the way to 275.
All the way to the back of the property line.
This is a property line, why do we recommend a fence here but not here?
Now, the one that's running perpendicular to 275.
Right, on the one side, not the other.
Yeah, but that's
I believe there's one already in existence, I'm not positive, but I thought we didn't hear anything from the other landowner. It's just a summation, I can't tell you for sure.
Was this a board request or something the zoning board was requesting?
It was, Mr. Radford mentioned it, and the planning board decided that was a good idea and added that condition to staff
You
condition.
know why they didn't consider the other side?
No, the planning board's recommendation is to
Fence both sides?
require property, every single parcel owner to add a privacy
Oh,
fence
okay.
on their property 15 feet in, and
So if
leaving the
the
undisturbed
board
buffer.
accepts the way it is now, there would be privacy fences on each lot, as it's built, is what it is? Okay, on both sides, okay.
My biggest issue would be, you guys attended the planning board meeting, you had the landowner there, you agreed on something, now he's not here tonight, and now we're gonna go change everything that you guys already agreed to. I have a big problem with that, because he doesn't know you were up here changing things. He needs to be able to speak to that, or, you know, 'cause he's probably thinking, okay, I'm okay with that, but now we can't hear from him.
I agree, and I think that's a legitimate thing, but, you know, we would ask, what we're saying is, these are private covenants that were suggested here.
Right.
All we're saying is, if we could allow that opportunity, if y'all would give us the opportunity to do that. If that doesn't work out and we need to put the 6 foot, then the 6 foot's already in, y'all have already approved it. We're just asking you to add one more thing to it, saying that if we can work out an agreement with Mr. Stallings that has less impact both on the undisturbed buffer and on his property, that you allow us to do a wire fence as opposed to a 15-foot, privacy fence election, which is quite honestly going to create a problem. We know, from what I've understood from other people, it creates a problem.
List then, do you talk to them and see if you can work that out? Is that what you?
No, sir, because they're covenants. They're not something that we have to do as part of the whole
Let me
process.
just get a question from our attorney on this. It sounds to me like we're giving something that we really can't do. Put something in there that you have to negotiate with the property owner. If you do, you can take the fence away. We need to make a decision about the zoning and what's going to happen tonight.
Yeah, that's correct. I would avoid putting a condition for a fence. If the parties want to do that, okay. I would stick to our requirements that we have in our zoning ordinance and not go any further absent some just really specific, unique situation.
So do I, so you recommend we should not request a fence as one of the conditions?
It was not required in the ordinance. I think you need to give a very good reason and explain why this is unique and different than any other subdivision that may come before you in the future, before you require something like that.
So according to this, we just have to agree with the 15-foot buffer.
Yes, sir, and there's no doubt about that.
That's my
Mr. Loper, Commissioner Loper, I'm just trying to make clear. Mr. Chairman.
He's not here to be able to speak to this. He's under the impression.
But it was agreed to for the 15-foot buffer, so we wouldn't be,
It's agreed to the fence, and they want to take that away. So the landowner with the planning board zoning.
It's something that we require.
I understand that, I'm just saying.
But it's not a requirement we have.
Why isn't he here?
I was sort of illegal to start.
Because he thinks it's, I guess he thinks it's,
I think we're assuming that, but we don't know why he's not here.
it's true.
Yeah, I'd have to take the position for the developer on that one and say that if someone's in my property, I've got to come to that meeting and make sure things are the way it starts.
And I will say, I think last meeting we had something similar come up and we did not require that. So on that side, on that, actually had two different arguments.
I'm
And we
suggesting,
talked
you
about
know,
this very thing and did not require it, so.
I'd legal advice and not get involved in civil matters outside of our legal zoning.
Very good.
Any other questions or comments though on the board? I've heard from both sides. I had the opportunity to anyway. Do I have a motion?
What are you gonna make a motion for?
Let's get, well, I would say right now, based on our attorney, you're going to make a motion, we go back to this, to approve the zoning R1 to R6, but we would eliminate the,
Yeah.
big item, I would say.
Item number 4 on the alternative. This is state
Without,
requirement.
without item number 4, the alternative. Okay. Motion to approve R1 to R6, eliminating the condition of item number 4, the alternative.
Have number 4.
If we change this, can we still do a second?
I don't think so, but we got to get this one approved first, and then we'll do that.
But we have the boundary fence in this motion, or we'll have the boundary fence in the motion?
The motion I'm asking for is, based on what our attorney recommended, is approving R1 to R6 with all the
1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3 alternatives.
All right, I'll make a motion to that.
Motion by Mr. Loper, as just stated. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Burdette. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Okay? And we can't do the second reading tonight because we changed one of the conditions of the advertised. So we'll do the second reading at the next meeting. Okay?
All right, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. I assume that's correct. Mr. Clerk? We'll move to our next.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. I just need to bring up one thing. I want to make sure that in doing that, the recommendation states on it that it was in the form of a covenant. I just want to make sure that we're aware of that. Everybody was aware. We made it real clear at the meeting that it was a covenant, and in the recommendation, it states that it's a covenant. I really don't think it's a change of the planning board's recommendation. It's a change, and all we're looking for is not to cause problems down the road. We can go.
Let me let our attorney address that, because it sounded like we were requiring a fence, and we've changed that condition.
We just doing away with the fence in that motion.
And so,
They won't
is
have
it
to come
correct, can we
fence
do a
up.
second reading tonight?
If they want to make everybody do it, then they can do that. They don't have HOA. But we not making him put up a fence.
I understand.
He understands that the question is, can we do the second reading tonight? I don't think we can, but I'm going to get a legal opinion.
We're gonna look at the policy real quick to see. It's easy when you add a condition and then we put it on the next agenda. But I'm not sure how it read
When you take it,
from the last one. Now, if it clearly states it's a private covenant between the parties and not part of the zoning, that's one thing. But the fact that we discussed it tonight, it must be, if it was truly private, why are we discussing it? I guess is my point.
yeah, I'm just looking at what was advertised. We were requiring a fence, and then we're not. Take the time, look it up,
I
don't
have
go
it.
away.
I have it. But it says that the first reading is not approved unanimously, or if there are additional stipulations or requirements. So it doesn't say if you remove one that you can't have it, so you can have it. You didn't add anything, you removed something. So you can do it.
Okay, you concur? All right. Appreciate you.
Sorry, but
No, we don't like to push things off to another meeting. I just want to do it legal, so we don't want to have things.
well, I appreciate y'all. And we're not going to let Mr. Stallings down. We're going to work out something with him, Commissioner Burdette. But that's where we're at.
Very good. We're going to have a second reading again based on our clerk and our legal advice. So I'll consider a motion for the second reading regarding the application from R1 to R6 by Tulsa Outreach for College Ed Ball. Do you have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Deloach to approve the second reading. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And hearing that, it passes unanimously. You got your first and second reading.
Thank you, sir.
Persistent sometimes. All right. Item number 3, sketch plan. Consideration to approve an application by Tulsa Island agent for College Ed Ball for a sketch plan for Old Lane subdivision located at 768 Effingham Road, consisting of 34 lots, net number 446, parcel number 13 and 15.
So the sketch plan illustrates the requirements of the R6 zoning district, which include 20% open space, and they are going to be doing that by including a pond, 1.17 acre pond, and a little over an acre of common space. That's just over 2 acres, so it meets the 20% requirement. Staff have reviewed the sketch plan and have come up with some recommendations regarding street length, including a requirement that lots be between 400 and 800 feet long. And so that if this were to be approved, we will follow up with a notice to proceed, and that will include all the recommendations from the staff review, and any recommendations that the board makes, including the specifics from the ordinance about street length, walk length requirement.
So if we approve the sketch plan, we're not approving the street length.
Just the lines.
Because I don't know how you can have as many lots without having the street length outside of what's allowed.
Why is it shorter? Why would it be shorter? And why do we have confidence?
There's a limitation on the length of the street before, or a cul-de-sac, before you have to have a stub out there for a potentially connecting road to a neighboring piece of property, should that property be developed. And since that would require, our current requires a limit of 800 feet, this is a full length of how many feet?
1,000.
Yeah, over 1,000, without a stub for a potential connecting street. I guess the background of that requirement is connectivity, so that if one of the neighboring properties decided to build something similar, we would require the same from them, and then both neighborhoods would be connected.
I think it's designed so you don't get all these streets dumping down onto a highway. You have connected roads, that's part of the controls. One of my concerns as we grow as a county, if we put connectors all along the roads, you got people pulling out constantly there. Versus knowing this is an entry for a subdivision, half mile road, here's an entry for a subdivision. It helps with traffic. Plus,
It also limits your encroachments, correct?
yeah, and plus the deeper you go, there's other issues with fire and hydrants and getting away from the water sources, and they may have hydrants and they take care of it. But how do you exit? How do you exit? If you have two exits, you've got another opportunity.
I was at Kensington, it's just a big circle, and you stretch it out, and it's the same thing, it's just not all in a straight line. I'm just curious why we would do that when we.
Well, Kensington's an example of trying to get everybody to come out with one that way, as far as easy access. But then having a, roads, you hope you have an exit.
Well, it's, we're closed in.
Yeah.
It's like most neighborhoods are.
No, I'm concerned that there's got to be more reasons why we have that. I want to make sure we meet those. I want to prove something outside of whatever the previous.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it.
And stop off
Safety reason.
Safety distances. So that raises a question, can we approve the sketch plan until you have something? I don't want to approve a highway if it's straight in the street, if it's not.
Well, currently, we are, we're reviewing site development plans for a number of subdivisions, and this issue has come up in other cases over the past couple of years, and in each case, it's been resolved by a redesign, and that, since there is a fairly simple solution, add a stub out, perhaps at the loss of a lot, we feel that going forward, we can work with them through the review process to come up with alternatives. So that's what we've been able to do with other projects that are underway or have recently been designed.
Okay, so we'll have that opportunity to require that stub out, even if the sketch plan is approved tonight.
Yeah, the sketch plan, our ordinance requirements for sketch plan are fairly basic. There are criteria that you can meet, but it also states that an engineer's drawing is not required. It really could be a hand drawing. But in this case, we can have a more advanced drawing. So the ordinance accommodates a whole range of submittals, and in this case, we have one that shows exactly what's being proposed, and so we've been able to respond to that. So, had they not given us such a good drawing, we might not have caught this, but.
So I'm going to lean on our attorney again. You feel like if we approve the sketch plan tonight, we can remedy any issues you think in the future? That's my main concern.
Yeah, I would just put that on the record that you're going to approve it with the understanding that those items will be addressed in the future, that this is simply a sketch plan.
Okay. Any other question, discussion?
So 1,000 feet would be addressed after tonight.
I think in the motion, our attorney said we need to say that the length of the road needs to be addressed in the final plan. If we approve the sketch plan, the length of the road issue needs to be addressed.
Right, and no building permits would be issued until that's remedied.
So if there's no other question, discussion, I entertain a motion to approve the sketch plan with the understanding that any current deviations from the road length would be eliminated, would be alleviated prior to permits being issued.
So moved.
You want to repeat that? You want to try to repeat it? Motion by Mr. Deloach, a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Burdette. It's recorded, so I hope you can repeat it in the minutes, and I'll read it, make sure that's what we see. Okay, all in favor say aye. All opposed, no. And carried. So the sketch plan is approved. We're just going to ask that, obviously, put the motion to remedy that issue that we have with the road.
We'll be getting with Mr. Lawson and Ms. Callahan and try to get this worked out and get it to
I'm sure
y'all.
y'all will be able to do it. You have good engineers, you'll take care of it. Thanks, sir.
Thank y'all for your service. We all appreciate that and wish y'all a very good evening, and hopefully sun will be back in a few days at least.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. And let the record show that Mr. Keeper has joined us again. Bench. Move to new business. Item number 1 of new business is an application consideration for the Effingham County Board of Commissioners to ratify and affirm the submittal of a grant application to FEMA assistance to firefighters grants program AFG.
Good evening, Christy Carpenter, Finance Director. The application for the AFG grant was due on February 12th, and staff requested 5 life pack monitors for EMS and 25 gas meters for fire and rescue. The total requested was $219,412.75. The county match, if awarded, will be $19,945.35 between general fund and fire. Staff is recommending ratification of the application submittal, which is alternative number 1.
Seeing good. Any questions, discussion from the board?
Make a motion to approve order number 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper to approve alternative number 1, second by Mr. Deloach. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. It carries.
Thank you.
Item number 2, application consideration to approve to submit a grant application to GEMA, Local Emergency Management Performance Grant, EMPG program.
The EMPG grant is awarded every year to EMA in the amount of $31,350 with a county match of $15,675. In the past, we have used this money to pay a portion of personnel in EMA, but this year EMA has some additional equipment needs, and they have requested that we submit the grant with an equal split between personnel and equipment. And the list of items to be purchased is on your staff report. Staff is requesting approval to submit the grant application, and that would be alternative number 1.
Is this additional personnel, or is it support?
No.
Very good. Any other question, discussion?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Loper, to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. It carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is funding consideration to approve funding for the rehabilitation of manholes, inflow and infiltration repairs.
Chris Notziger, EOM Operations, and I've got Charlie Hano with me as well. What we are presenting today is a recommendation to approve inflow and infiltration repairs and some further investigation. As you're aware, we are concerned about capacity issues at the wastewater treatment plant. These are more short-term items to address some of the capacity. We are also looking at long-term and other immediate needs, such as additional spray field and future recommendations for discharge to address the capacity and the growing concerns of the county. Those will be addressed in a second meeting. The next meeting, you'll have those on your agenda. We did get the test results for the additional spray field, and those were good, and we do expect to be able to apply the amount that we wanted in those areas. But for this particular recommendation, what we have is 3 manholes that we have identified with high infiltration. I'm going to let Charlie go into a little bit of that in further detail. However, the funding for this portion is $27,240. This actually does include a $4,000 contingency. This is for additional well pointing that may be needed in Staffordshire just because of the groundwater tables. We are hoping not to need that, but just so you know, the actual repairs for the subcontractor and the well pointing is only about $23,000, but we did put that contingency just in case because it is very wet out there. In addition to that, and you also have maps in the area that show what those locations are in the packet and some photos. We are requesting some CCTV inspections and light cleaning with the vac truck in Staffordshire. We do know there are additional infiltration issues in this area. Once we repair the one that's noted in here, we do anticipate it being like a hose. When you fix one spot, it's going to spring a leak later on. The only problem is there's no way to determine that without having the camera services for the manholes and the sewer gravity lines. We do have the technology. This would be done with NASCO certified inspectors doing MACP and PACP standard inspections. There is some information in the back of the packet that was provided about CCTV inspections, some samples of areas that were done and some of the inspection forms, just samples of a manhole inspection, if you would like to look at that. But I'm going to let Charlie go into why the I&I is such a crucial thing right now.
Covered that pretty good. I don't know what I'm going to say. Obviously, capacity is an issue, and most recently in 2018, we were able to get a permit expansion modification from $375,000 to $500,000. Currently, in some months, we are getting very close to that permit limit as it is right now. What we've identified with these 3 specific manholes, specifically the one in Staffordshire, based off of pump run times, we're seeing a potential of 75 to 100,000 gallons a day just coming out of that one area. And to us, for capacity's sake, that's pretty low-hanging fruit in terms of being able to immediately stop a problem. And this is just what's been identified. I think with a real hard look at the entire neighborhood as a whole, looking at every single joint, I think that's just going to give us the ability to know exactly what to fix and where. And we can possibly get that capacity back. And that's just one neighborhood. As we expand that into other neighborhoods, I think overall we could find ourselves with an extra 120 to 140,000 gallons. The county is growing, but it's not growing quite that fast. We were 3 years ago right on the cusp of the 375 target, and we were able to move that to 500,000, and now we are already up north of 400,000 regularly, and sometimes up to 450,000 a month. So I think there is an extreme cost to I&I that we don't actually get to see through pump run times, through treatment. I mean, you're treating millions of gallons of rainwater at times, and that is a sunk cost to the county as well. So I think overall it's a very good investment, and in terms of capacity, I think it's absolutely necessary.
Charlie, didn't you give me an estimate of what it would cost to put 100,000 gallons on the application of buying the land and putting the pipes in? Is there some kind of number?
Additional spray fields for, what was it, the 3 million? Capacity was like $10 million for additional spray fields.
10 million for 3 million additional gallons per day. So what would
Well,
that
for
be
the total to be the 3 million.
Yeah, if we did the full plant expansion, which currently the plant itself can sustain 1 million gallons a day, but with a full build out, we would max out at 2 million gallons a day unless we redid that and acquired more land for a bigger footprint. But we would easily have to have an enormous amount of land to accommodate that.
Math in my head, but it's not going to be like $350,000 for 100,000 gallons a day. I'm just trying to put in perspective for our board. To spend $27,000 or even $30,000 to $40,000 and gain 100,000 gallons a day is a whole lot cheaper than spray fields.
Absolutely.
It's the way to go. From so mentioning that 10 million and 3 million gallons, I guess I did my math right. It's around $350,000 for 100,000 gallons.
I mean, and that could also easily be capacity needed for a fairly large industry that provide jobs as well.
That sounds good. I think it's a great result getting this done. We had a problem for a while, it's only going to get worse. And you're going to, in a couple of weeks, come back to us and tell us how we're going to get that 1 million gallons that Mr.
More than that.
The roach and I will push you guys to get us that too.
Yeah.
Well, we're fixing these 3 now. I mean, that's great, but are we going to continue looking at others as well in the future?
Yes, that is actually part of the line item number 2 for the CCTV. This is the CCTV that we're proposing is just for the Staffordshire area. In the budget request for the 2021-2022, we did also include line items. Once we do these inspections, we'll be able to get a probability of failure for the other areas throughout that subdivision, and from there then we can move on. So with the next budget cycle, we'll be able to determine which repairs need to be done now, other areas that need to be cameraed, as well as some capital improvement projects for maybe year 2, 3, and 4, if it's not something that's an immediate issue. If it's something that can last for a few years, we can plan that out in the future. So just having these inspections is crucial because you really don't know where to start with without having them, because most of these areas are underground and you cannot see it without having CCTV.
Our SCADA, is it identifying the quadrants where these infiltrations are so it narrows it down?
We can look at the run times on the SCADA system and determine during the rainfalls and areas of high groundwater when the pumps are running.
Just for a really quick example, in Staffordshire specifically, on average, our average run times end up being 200 to 300 minutes per pump, and that is normal. That is fairly high. So we are seeing influence of groundwater. During a rain event, we're seeing upwards of 800 to 900 minutes of runtime per pump. So we know without a shadow of a doubt that is our biggest problem right now in terms of I&I.
Well, how do you manhole? You just dig them out and pour concrete in them, or what? I mean, what?
Depending on what the actual problem is, some of them can just be sprayed with a liner. Some of them actually have to have some of the bench repairs done. Some of them will have to be reset depending on the type. In some areas we have some brick manholes. Yeah, and that's what the inspections are for. And that's why if you look, these inspection sheets are fairly lengthy because it goes through all those items to determine what's actually needed and the type of repair that would be associated with that so that you can do capital planning.
So then we might actually have another $100,000 in repairs, but still, we're going to be well below the 350. And it's a one-time expense for hopefully 10, 15, 20 years.
Once you do these, then these will be good for a little while. We recommend doing a rotating basis, and that's what we do in other areas. And what we have included in the recent budget request to hit the inspections and the I&Is, so we can, instead of doing it all at once where it's extremely costly, you're breaking it out each year on the older infrastructure instead of trying to catch it up all at one time.
No, sounds good. It's all part of the piece of the puzzle and providing the infrastructure we need for the growth that's here and is coming. So I appreciate it. I do a great job. Thank you. Any other questions for?
Bottom line, we have aging infrastructure.
For these particular three, what are all of them going to be repaired in the same manner, or is it?
The Staffordshire has a bench repair, is that correct?
Yes.
That one's actually going to be a little bit more difficult as far as the method because of having to well point and the groundwater issues around that location. The other two are just going to be spray lined. They don't have to have a bench repair on them.
What cost-wise, what are you looking at for a spray line or the one with the big problem?
They all depend. It's based on the length and the diameter of the actual manhole and the depth of the manhole. So they vary depending on what the depth is at that manhole. We actually did get 3 estimates for these so that we can get the cheapest and the best quality, of course, for the vendors.
Very good. Thank you so much. Any other questions or discussion? Do I have a motion to approve alternative 1?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
All right, two first. I'll go with Mr. Bird on the motion and a second by Mr. Loper. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. Thank you. Item 4, consideration to approve the contract number 21-105-002 between Effingham County and BRW Construction Group LLC for the BJ Water Main Extension and Construction. Glad to see this coming.
Good evening, Commissioners. Yes, I'm sure this is a long one coming. You've seen Loop A water line project before several times through the design phase. It is now ready for construction. Before you tonight is the agenda item to approve the award of the contract to BRW Construction Group. for the construction of Waterline Loop A. We received 5 bids on February 9th. Those were evaluated by our design consultant, Hussey Gay Bell, for completeness and competency, and you have their recommendation attached to your packet. The construction cost proposed is $1,281,110. And again, that's for about 12,000 feet of 16-inch line along McCall and Blue
The
Jay.
estimate much higher?
The estimate was nearly $2 million, yes,
That's
sir.
what I thought, so
Yeah.
let's go. Need more,
So,
things like that.
yeah. Also included in your packet, if you're interested, is a line-by-line of the bid and a sample of the proposed contract.
All right, any questions?
Staff recommends approval.
Any questions, discussions from Mr. Elliott? Motion to approve alternative 1.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Motion by Mr. Burdick, I think we'll second Mr. Cooper.
Sure.
Okay. Did you?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Any carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done, Sadie, and
Item number 5, contract consideration to approve a final plat, infrastructure agreement, and warranty deed conveying infrastructure from Shadowbrook. Phase 5A consists of 57 lots located off of Log Lane Road.
So this is phase 5A of Shadowbrook. There are 57 lots. The water and sewer is being provided by the city of Springfield. You do have an infrastructure agreement that the city has already approved, and that will be up for your approval, and that is associated with the utility easement agreement and new water sewer agreement between the city and the developer. So all of those have already been approved by the city of Springfield. Sidewalks are in place in phases 1 through 3. You all did provide a variance to the sidewalk requirement for phase 4. As far as we know, sidewalks are planned for phase 5A, and we expect them to be constructed. EOM has reviewed the plat, staff and EOM have reviewed the plat and inspected this development site and the stormwater infrastructure, recommend approval. We've reviewed all of the paperwork and recommend approval of that too. The bond and the deed and have been provided for you, as well as the stormwater maintenance agreement. And tonight we would ask that you approve the deed and the infrastructure agreement and final plat.
On these approvals, on these lots, the construction takes place and the big cement trucks come in, go down the road. How do we protect our roads during the construction phase? Is there a bond or anything that's put up? Because sometimes you have damage to the roads, it takes 5 or 10 years and then
The bond is for 10% of the cost of construction of the paving and stormwater infrastructure in the phase that's up for
and that will be held to the final construction or so much is completed, 80% or something? Or
That's not how we handle it.
how long is the bond good for?
The bond is good for a year.
For a year. What if it's not built out in a year? There's a lot of damage to the road during the construction. We've had that other subdivision where the trucks come in and they pound the road for 10, 12, 15 years and then we've got to resurface those roads. And, that's only concern up to the board to make sure that we can consider that as we do this. It's not a concern of the seas not property. So any question or discussion on this item? Hearing none, I'll entertain the motion.
Make a motion to approve order number 1. Second.
Motion by Mr. Ludwig, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Any carries. And just for our engineers, Sarah here?
Yes, sir.
We beefed up our road departments a little bit, haven't we? So that should be prevented maybe.
Yeah, pavement thickness was recently updated. That will help with some of the issues you've
Yeah,
mentioned.
so that may eliminate some of the concerns that I'm having there. I think we did that. And the testing of the base to make sure it's knocked out that needs to be, all that's part of what will happen with this. Okay. I forgot about that. Thank you. All right. Item number 6, appointments. Consideration to approve resolution 021-005 to reappoint Lowell Morgan, and resolution number 021-006 to reappoint Janice Feather to the Board of Tax Assessors.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you pretty much said it. If if you all will check the paperwork at your desk, there's a revised staff report there. These two individuals' term of office does expire on March 30th. Mr. Morgan is an appointment by Commissioner Loach, and Ms. Bevel is an appointment by Commissioner Burdette, and they both wish to reappoint these individuals. Their terms of office will expire March of 2025 if they're reappointed.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? In this case, we need a motion for alternative one to add also reappointment of Janice Bell.
If you notice your staff report, that alternative includes hers as well.
Staff review?
Yes.
Okay, so a motion to approve the alternative one with staff report.
Make a motion to approve alternative one with the staff report read.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Deloach. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And they are reappointed. Item number 7, contract, consideration to approve a contract with Allen Engineering Services, LLC for on-call GIS services.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Due to recent personnel changes in the GIS department, staff is in need of some direct help, particularly some historic knowledge with regards to our GIS system and database. We are requesting to have an on-call contract with Allen Engineering Services. The key GIS personnel is RC, who obviously was a part in our GIS department for many years. And we're requesting this. The rates are here, and this would be good at the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, any question, discussion?
Yeah, how about these, how many of these $150 an hour people we don't have?
It really is an on-call basis when it becomes a last-minute question as to something we don't have, we just don't know here because it's something work that was done by somebody else. So we're going to be, as we have been with the spatial contract, we're going to be extremely cautious as to when we call in the need for these services. So I can't quite answer the breakdown of what we will need. Project manager, I don't think necessarily we're going to be needing that much on unless we actually do a separate project that we send out to them. This will mostly be kind of an on-call service for things that our GIS tech, Danny, who has not been with us very long, may not know some historical data. So I would imagine that these are going to fall closer into the $80 to $95 range per hour services, not a project management type service.
But they'll just come in as needed and they'll do what they want to. And
I would imagine it's going to be a phone call that we could probably get them to provide us information. If they need to come up here, we'll get them up here. But it's really just an as-needed basis where they're going to help the county out through this kind of transition period that we're having.
More of a stopgap, when you get a roadblock, this gets you beyond the roadblock, so you don't spend a dozen hours of Chris or somebody's time trying to figure out, and somebody else might give us an hour or two.
Right. That's right. It's cheaper to just ask the source, probably, who is RC on this, than try and do the investigation work and decode why something was done, when it was done, and where it is.
Good question. Any other questions?
okay.
We have a motion to approve alternative one.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Burdette to approve alternative one. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. And then the additional items we have tonight, item number 8, consideration to approve a final plat for Oliver subdivision located off of Old Dixie Highway South, consisting of 3 lots, map number 313, parcel number 23.
So this is one of those unusual situations that we've been having more recently where it's only 3 parcels, but last May, you all approved the rezoning of a 2-acre, 2.5-acre parcel from a larger tract. So that's a minor subdivision. And here we are, less than a year later, and the people who bought that small parcel have combined it with an existing 1-acre parcel and now want to split the whole thing out to 3 parcels. That's another minor subdivision. As such, I couldn't sign it. It was a total of 4 parcels in less than a year. So we brought it to you as a final plat. These are all on the Old Dixie Highway. There's no new roads or infrastructure involved. It's just a very simple split of a parcel that was split last year.
Okay, any questions, discussion?
What are they doing with this? So is there a personal residence on one of these lots?
Yeah,
And then there's 2 additional lots or 3 additional lots besides the personal residence?
Last year, one new parcel was created, and then here we are, last May, and then now, and in the interim, that 2.67 acre parcel was sold and was combined with the existing 1-acre parcel, parcel 1. And now the people who bought that, the Olivers who bought that, want to split out parcel 1, that 1-acre parcel again to be its own. It already has a little home on it, and they want to create parcels 2 and 3 and put family members on those. They want separate parcels. And it's AR2, so it can't have a second residence for a family member because it's not AR1. So in order to accommodate their 2 children, they have to split the parcels.
And it's all road frontage on county?
It's all road frontage, yeah.
Okay.
I presume that ordinance, the purpose, I guess, of that ordinance is to prevent trying to circumvent some of the regulation. And that's obviously not what's going on here.
No, not at all. No.
And this is a new property owner, right? You say bought this property, and the previous property owner did some subdividing.
Right, the previous property owner
This is a whole new
subdivided
property.
from a much larger tract, and it just falls into that niche of that ordinance where there's more lots
It's
than
time
one
for
year.
that property owner who says, I'll get 3 lots this year, 3 lots next year, 3 lots next year. Reason they won't subdivision, we're going to get that. Any other questions, discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Loper to approve alternative 1. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. Additional agenda item number 9, consideration to approve a lease agreement between the Effingham County Board of Commissioners and the Department of Natural Resources for boating access and operation and maintenance agreement resolution 21-007.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is related to the Tommy Long boat landing. Every 25 years, this lease comes up, and this one had expired in October. So this would renew it again for another 25 years. I think we negotiated a good lease rate of $1. And this also includes the maintenance agreement associated with this, and that's approved as a resolution. Staff is recommending alternative 1.
Just a point of interest to remind you, if you want to know how to get out clerk, is it's a 25-year-old lease, and the manager asked if she could find it, and he said within a few minutes she had it on his desk. That's an amazing thing. We have a good record keeper. We appreciate you, Ms. Stephanie, for what you do. Don't take that for granted that you can find a 25-year-old lease. Any questions or discussions? Motion for alternative 1.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Lopez, second, Mr. Deloach, for alternative 1. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. It carries. I've seen clerks somehow walk around the state, couldn't find something they did last year, much less 25 years ago. Item number Number 10, bonds, consideration to approve and to accept a proposal for general obligation transportation sales tax bonds from key government finance.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this actually, we had put out a solicitation for bids for the bonds associated, $35 million for the bonds associated with the T-SPLOST projects. We were lucky to get numerous responses, and we are extremely excited to recommend to the board that they accept the proposal by Key Government Finance, Inc., at an interest rate of 0.793. Yeah, and there is one change from the proposal. Our FA financial advisor went back to them and they removed the clawback basically associated with it. If
Prepayment penalty?
no, I'm sorry, if Congress, let's say, were to eliminate the tax exempt status of municipal bonds, they had a provision in there where the interest rate would automatically go up. They've removed that.
I don't see why we never pay this all for, well, I know we got to pay all for 5 years, but still, we'll leave this on the books as long as we can.
Yeah, we were estimating 1.25%, so we're pretty excited.
Rankin and see how they will reconsider the project. Sounds great. Appreciate you doing that. You want a motion to approve alternative one?
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And we have an excellent rate. You can get in before March 8th. Is there any need for executive session? I don't see any agenda, but is there any need for executive session? Is there any other business of this commission tonight?
Just a general question. I know that SPLOST is the next thing on the list. I mean, do we need to schedule a workshop, say, the next couple of months? Just, I don't know if staff needs any direction.
Yeah, I think that we kind of just gave you a briefing of it on just to get y'all thinking about it at the workshop or retreat. But absolutely, I would probably recommend a workshop just to kind of go over the projects we're thinking and get some feedback from y'all, make some alterations so that we can pass a resolution, a bond resolution for referendum in the adequate period of time, which I believe is September, is the deadline for that. But we also have to get the project lists or categories effectively from the municipalities as well.
Now, I know you're in budget time. I'm trying to look at our calendar. Probably would not be wise to, probably want to do it on a regular teaching night, right? When you come in 4, you can do it another day.
Yeah, I think before would be good.
I mean, April will probably be, will be freed up a little bit, right?
We'll be finished with meetings mid-March.
Yeah, so I would say if you want to do it on a meeting night, first or second meeting in April is great.
Why don't we look at the 20th, give you time to get through this budget, because then you'll be back, Christie, trying to put it all together and make all the cuts. But why don't we look at the 20th?
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter to me. One thing I was thinking about is maybe if we try to do it on the first meeting of the month, because then we wouldn't have a planning board session, so it wouldn't be as long of an afternoon.
Okay. All right, let's look at the 6th. That's good point, Mr. Butch, I appreciate that.
Okay.
The 6th, we'll plan to, is an hour enough, or should we maybe come at 3:30, give us a little more time? Give us a full hour and 15 minutes, take a little break.
I would say a good hour, 15 minutes would be.
So let's come at 3:30, for those who can be here, 3:30, and that'll give us a good hour and 15 minutes.
That's March.
We'll follow up with another meeting. April.
Well, yeah.
April 6th.
We already in March, aren't we? April, okay.
April 6th. Sounds good. Okay. Thank you. I know they're on top of the T-Splosh projects as well. That engineering said that the designs get ground running on that. We've been talking about that, so it's good.
Yeah, I think we'll have that on the next meeting. The IDX groups.
They're due March 15th, so I doubt I'll have them ready for next one, but first meeting in April.
So first meeting in April, we'll be able to award those and start pushing those out.
Much needed.
Which is probably, it's going to take about 30 days just to be safe to close on this funding. So our timing should be pretty good.
Are we still cruise control with the parkway? We're still just waiting on?
Yep, we had a call on it last week, and as a matter of fact, right before this meeting, the one thing we were waiting on was the Corps of Engineers coming back with their signed or ratified or whatever it is, covenants and restrictions. Oh, I'm sorry, restrictive covenants. We got that, and so now it's just they'll be wrapping everything up for letting in May. And hopefully we'll have an updated estimate that I can share with you all as soon as we get it.
Can you just remind me again, the letting in May means that we would probably see boots on the ground construction in July?
Yeah, they'll award it in July. How long they take to
mobilized.
To get mobilized is not sure.
People are asking, I think.
Well,
We may need to go to park, they'll have our farm tractors out there around the site. Just show some activity.
they'll have shovels in the ground, but they'll be those golden ones with the photographers in front of it in July.
Well, speaking of that, I did, and I'm sure all of you got it, I think it was a report from WJCL. She was asking about if we come up with a groundbreaking date, which I did not respond. I assume Ms. Ann will.
That's right. Since GDOT is handling the letting and the awarding of it, we'll let them give us a date of as to, it'll probably be the following a board meeting, a GDOT board meeting where they award the contract, and then we can do it anytime after that.
Yeah, just keep us informed, because I would really like to consider, just honoring the senator who was so instrumental in giving us that grant. Mr. Hill, somehow do that, recognize him as.
Okay.
Anything else from anyone on the board?
Yeah, I got something. We need to put a sign up down there coming into Effingham County, a nice one. We need to get with the IDA or the Chamber of Commerce, and we do it a three-way. Let them do it, and the county needs to do it. And I can get the land. I mean, that's taken care of. All y'all got to do is come up with the money and the type sign we can put up.
Okay, is this 21 you're talking about, or?
Yeah, about Old Augusta Road down there.
Okay, I gotcha.
That's the county line. And years ago, I don't know who had one that. IDA, either the Chamber had one there years ago. Little brick sign there, but
We talked about Gitsy helping us with that.
it took off. But we need to put a good sign coming in Effingham County.
Okay.
I agree, appreciate you bringing that up, that's good.
We can give with the IDA, they might want to do it, or I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe all three of us get together and pay for it. I don't know. Whatever we all want to do.
that sounds good,
But we need one down there, a nice one.
I agree.
that'd be great, yep. You got a great county, and usually signage tells you how proud you are. We don't have signs that say how proud we are, that's be great.
But anyway, we get ready to do it, we can do it.
I think we can find the resources for that, that's much needed.
Josh Reddick, pay for it.
Huh?
Josh Reddick, pay for it.
Well, I don't know about that.
I think Jason Bragg still has a sign down there. I think Jason Bragg still has a sign down there. So, we can just add a little footer to the bottom.
All right, anything else from the commission on this side?
I had a couple of things. Low ground road, I know Commissioner Robert can help with this, and just wanted to see if you've got any updates on that. I know you want to take a look at it,
Yes.
initiate on the engineering part, investigate, and then how far along you're with it. I'm still getting.
I know we're getting, and it's on social media as well, and so, and you know, up until maybe this week or end of last week, I hadn't heard much on it.
Yeah,
so-
nothing.
Yeah. Did we ever get a response on that?
I've got a bunch of calls on it.
Yeah,
It got rained out.
Low ground road.
It got rained out.
Okay. So the short term, keep in mind, it is an ash road. So the short term is, you know, obviously let's keep it patched. They were out there today as long as they could till they got rained out. They'll be out there tomorrow to finish. The issue is because of, we just have to sit down and figure out what we want to do long term on the road. The road, because it is a connector road, we may want to look at doing the chip seal standard, or we may actually want to look at figuring out how to do this, whether it's LMIG or what have you, in phases as a repaving or a total, full depth reclamation on it, like Indigo Road. Because as the county grows, I would imagine you're going to see a lot more use of that road as a bypass of Blue Jay to get to Midland and 21, and we may want to invest on something a little bit more permanent than simply doing the surface treatment. So, but in the meantime, we're going to get it patched and repaired.
One thing.
Do you have feedback?
Yeah, just the reason for the FDR and more extensive repairs is because there also is a dirt pit on that road. So it is traveled heavily with dump trucks. And it actually was already done in certain sections with the chip and seal before, and it just did not last with that kind of heavy traffic. So that was one of the reasons that we talked to Eric about possibly the FDR.
Thank you. I was going to piggyback on what you said earlier about the roads being beat up and we're having to replace them again. We start thinking about that with these dirt pits. These things operate for years and just get destroyed and counties don't live for them. I don't know what we can do about it, but certainly we need to consider it.
Well, you got to have the dirt pits, you got to build stuff, you got to have the dirt.
Yeah, I mean, they're making all the money to replace the roads.
Well, I know that.
Yeah, but I think if you work doing some kind of
They pay taxes for that, you have to.
if you work doing some kind of study to see if there's a fee we could charge for, you know, repairing roads and so forth, just something, or can we establish a route that gets them to that state route, even though it might be more direct to go this way, we might send this half a mile only this way. Be worth looking at it to see how we can
do a fee based on potential volume, you know, like we truckloads, you know, they take 60,000 pounds or whatever, take a tow truck. It's 3 axles, so it's a car probably around 60 pounds. That's a lot of weight. We condensed in that area.
That'd be a good thing for our development services to work on when we got somebody.
That's right, and I'll say, I mean, those trucks are tough on our county roads, paved roads, ash roads, you know, I mean, it's just destructive. So we did, and keep in mind that a lot of these older dirt mines are not subject to some of the, you know, newer requirements that you all just approved with regards to entrance roads and exits and signage and keeping the dirt off the road, which is what, in a lot of cases, it's not just the weight of the truck, but the actual debris that's eating away at the roads. But the older ones are kind of grandfathered into that, so under the older standards. So, but we'll look at some options from what some other counties have done as well.
Excellent.
Just one little weird one I had. I was looking at districts. I can't answer this. Somebody made this been on board for a long time. You know, how are our districts established? Were they based on density in certain areas? And then my district's tiny. We got a lot of people in our district, but now they're changing. We're getting density in other areas. Should our districts be changing, or will we be adding on more commissioners? Or, you know, how are we going to tackle that?
We changed, they would change.
It's done after
5 or 6 years ago, they changed.
Ever since?
They got to be within a certain, because I had to, fourth district had more people in it than the third and the fifth. So he got some of my district and so did Jamie.
So it's read about.
They got to be within a certain percentage.
That was like, normally this process would be already moving forward, but I'm sure the state is just behind on.
Yeah, it's a lot bogged down.
They normally do the process already.
It's an automatic thing. I was just curious of that.
But they got to be within a certain percentage.
I don't think we can control that.
And we would have gotten the initial numbers by now under normal circumstances from the census. Right now, they're looking at getting information for redistricting purposes. September 30th is what they pushed it back to. So that gets it really tight to some of the re-elections to get not just basically every district's going to get whether it is a Senate, State House, Commissioner, or even precincts. Obviously, you're going to get redistricted. So, but that data is not going to be available. The latest number that came out was September 30th. So,
And that's what
pushes
was
it back
back to
to
GIS, because it goes into your census blocks. In GIS is how that's kind of,
I'm just
we're
looking
having
at
to call
brand new roads, brand new
Continue.
neighborhoods in my district.
It's going to change our MPO too, isn't it?
what's that?
It's going to change our MPO along the rate.
Yeah, that's the other thing. But that doesn't happen for at least another year, and if that gets delayed, maybe a year and a half before we start having to take on the responsibilities and expenditures associated with the expanding metropolitan planning area and MS4 requirements. So, but yeah, all that's census related.
Anything else?
One more thing I'll shut up about.
You said you had two.
Well, just the thoughts that I see as I see things and it's one thing that perhaps we could, I don't even know if this is possible, but if it is possible, maybe empower our county manager to sign off on the grants that don't have an impact on our county budget at all. So you can just kind of, we're going to always accept free money. It's always a yes, and if we can streamline some of that, we're going to get free money. It's kind of a shoe-in thing.
And we can look into it, but in some cases, they were the grant provider. The federal government's going to require.
Usually requires it. Plus, it's a documents or record in our minutes for auditors. They could read the minutes and people in finances, they find out what funds are you supposed to be receiving and looking for those. I'm not sure you have a trail. If it was just a pretty good administrative.
That's it. I didn't know
But
that
they
procedure.
some kind of legal trail.
There's that thing like that, or whatever, you put over to the one.
So we put them on consent agenda, so we take it that long to do it. But you have another kind of free money. Huh? So we're not going to turn out free money never. I don't think I would. Anything else? Need for executive session, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion from Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Burdette to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. And you are